So welcome back to the show. Today on the show we're exploring couples in business, and with me I have the guitarists Mary and Paul. So one of the key things I wanted just to find out, how do you guys manage to just juggle between being in business and also what's it called, your family life?
We have 3 children.
Yes.
They are like triplets, but the first 2 are twins. And when they were born, we would bring them to the office. Our tea lady would take care of them. People would come in and hold them as we're busy trying to work. So we've kind of integrated our family life and our business life because we feel like what we're trying to build is actually a legacy business, a generational business. We don't want there to be a split where our children don't know what's happening, they don't know what we do. We don't want them to kind of get into it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I remember when you were having a conversation via phone prior to this, you mentioned to me about some of the lows you guys have had in the business.
Yes.
You told me there's a period in time, there's a point that your office was just broken into and everything was stolen, and you guys had to start again from scratch.
Yes.
How was that period for you guys?
Our very first office was like a home office. I think that was one of the lessons we've learned.
We decked
Commercial
it out.
office was, we decked it out. We really, they give you a flat, it looks like a
warehouse,
dormitory. Back in high school. And then now you have to come and partition it and create a boardroom and create offices. That costs you a lot of money. And then now your office gets broken into.
With
and
no
you've got these
insurance.
expensive machines and you hadn't done insurance and you've spent all your money decking out the office. And you're like, where are we starting? How do we start again? For me, I just found commercial leases tend to be very not business friendly, especially for SMEs. Because I'm signing a lease for 6 years on an increment of 10% every year. And I'm like, I'm not even so sure.
Am I sure my clients are giving me an increment of 10%
10%
per
every
year?
And I'm not even so sure my clients will be with me for 6 years.
Right.
Let alone,
Yeah.
So I think for me that was one of the biggest lessons we've ever learned.
Not to
Because we
sign
lost a
commercial
lot
leases.
of money there.
Yeah.
Just not to sign a commercial lease, or if you have a commercial lease, please put an exit clause.
Yeah. Be
And
clear.
then second, insurance.
Always.
Cover your office, man. Things someone will come and steal everything. So
And how
that
did you
makes
come out
sense.
of this? Because it seemed that it was a big low. You've lost a lot of money. Your main tools
Yeah,
of operation
so
have been stolen. How did you come out of this?
We needed to actually put money back into the business, and we borrowed, begged, so family, friends.
So you became professional
came through
beggars.
for us, yes, just to help us now go back, because you've got clients, but you have nothing to actually do the work with. And you need to fill that gap in the middle.
And then we moved, luckily, I don't even know, God works in mysterious ways, but we had to move out of our home. We couldn't afford the rent anymore, so to speak. So we found a friend of ours offered us their house because they had gone overseas for further studies, and we were allowed to house sit for them. So that was the lowest season. And God had just managed to plan it in such a way that we moved into their house. We're not paying rent. They were so gracious that we're not paying rent. So the only thing we were looking for was transport and
pay electricity.
and food. Another low, sorry again, is we actually had an employee who was stealing from us.
What?
After the whole thing about being broken into. And then you discover that, I don't know whether it was difficulty in what she was going through, but I guess we had trusted too much.
Another interesting thing about being in this particular business is the element of conflict. In any particular business, that particular perspective of having conflict. Conflict in terms of maybe not agreeing on the same direction or maybe different parts. How, guys, have you handled conflicts?
So we've been lucky at least to have some employees who then come in and say, okay, we need to have somebody to have the tiebreaker. We can't all be making decisions. So we have employees who actually come and say, okay, no, here, you're going to be the tiebreaker. This is my point of view. That's your point of view. What do you think? And that becomes an assessment. Or mentors. Like currently we sit in a place called the Sandbox. We can always pull someone in and say, we're not agreeing on this. And that's because I'm looking at it from this way, she's looking at it from this way. How do we then bring those to be reconciled?
All right. And just being at it 10 years, it's not a rosy journey. And I remember just having a conversation with you, Mary, telling me that there are periods whereby one of you has to take, leave the business to go work when the business is not facing a difficult period of time. How do you handle that particular period of time? How do you eat?
Yeah, so there's a time we were sure we were closing down completely because we literally had no income. Like, there was no projects coming in. I think it was an election period, and we were not generating enough. And therefore, what we discussed is we need to first of all scale down. So we used to be in a big house, for example. We're renting and as our office space, so we had to let go of the rooms. Then we asked whether we could sublease, you know, some of the rooms so that we could get some income. Then that still didn't work out. Then there was an opportunity to partner with another agency, so we kind of just let go of asked the staff to join that agency. And then Paul, came. We asked him to take to take one for the team and and sort of join that agency as well, because the idea was for us to partner. So we were kind of now housed under that agency in totality. And the best thing that our friend did for us was just to have him on a paid employment contract, because now that's what was able to sustain us as a family. Because at the end of the day, if we're running a family business, the word family comes first. So our family has to be able to survive for us even to be creative enough to go out and source for business.
Interesting. And do you remember you also mentioning to me about the period during the COVID situation whereby business was on a complete low, guys are not spending. And she's telling me that whatever, you came back on your bills and things were very difficult. How did you go through it?
We had to sit down and look at, so here is COVID. So even as you're convincing clients that they need to spend, even during COVID, you need to come back and look at first the budget for the family, but also the budget for the business, and say, okay, what do we need to make cuts? So who can we ask for a bit of allowance? Do we need to go to the bank and ask them for a bit of allowance so that we can survive? Or to our landlord to give us a bit of allowance so that we can survive, and so that you now are left at bare spending, and then now figure out, okay, in this arena that we're operating, how do we even create business for ourselves? And it actually took a bit of reflection, putting everyone actually in the team together and saying, well, we have to go through this period. We don't know how long it's going to last. We just have to look at this business very differently. And it did help that we had just moved from a big office to an SME growth hub, because we're like, instead of going looking for business outside there, we can look for business internally. So a lot of the people who are within the SME hub became our clients because they also needed our services. And some of our clients were like, okay, us, we won't stop, but can we discuss how we can operate during this COVID period? Once we were able to adapt, we were like, okay, this is working. How do we then grow it? How do we continue doing it such that we're able to survive as a family, survive as a business, and then now start thriving?
It's been a very interesting journey, and I'm sure time just flies so fast on this particular show. I wonder how time just runs out. But maybe just in brief as we just close, because I'm sure there's a lot of people watching us who are probably, as a couple, either thinking about getting into business or already running their business. Maybe in just a few seconds, what exactly are some of the key lessons, or maybe the key lessons you can actually share to anybody watching this for you to successfully run your business as a couple?
I think for me, I'll start by saying, don't be afraid. Start the business, run it together. You will figure out the mistakes, and then just have grace for each other. I mean, none of you has run a business before, so you're on a learning process. And the more you learn, you're able to share the lessons together and say, we can get better at this. And I think for us in this country, we always say, but families can't run businesses. And I'm like, but there are many examples of families that are running businesses.
True.
Asian businesses, international businesses that are being run by families. Why is it we're not taking that example? Or is it that we shun certain businesses? You see, if my dad is running a garage, me, I want to be a doctor. Whereas maybe I could come into the garage and grow it bigger.
Interesting. Mary?
For me, it's to surround yourself with believers. What I mean by that is people who believe in you and believe in the same values that you have. Because a lot of our business has come from friends, it has come from family, it has come from clients who actually know the value of supporting family-led businesses, women-led businesses. One of the things that Paul has allowed me to do, I think there was a question about shareholding structure, is that we have a flat system. And right now the government is favoring, and all funding agencies are favoring women-led businesses. So it's actually put me at the forefront to be able to run the business and be the face and the voice of it. And he's not afraid, he's not intimidated by me being being
we allow women empowerment.
Business, right?
Interesting.
Yeah,
We are no longer youth, so
Yeah.
it's only women.
Yeah, so just understanding what is it that is your unique value proposition, putting the strongest foot forward, and then surrounding yourself with people. So being at the Sandbox has helped us to surround ourselves with people who believe that entrepreneurship is the route to making this country successful.
Interesting. My goodness. On that particular note, we have to end the show at this particular point. I wish we had so much time, but I believe there's so much that we can actually learn from them in terms of just being together, sticking together as a couple towards running your business. So that's it for the show tonight, and I hope you've learned a thing or two from the conversations we've had on the show. If you're an entrepreneur out there and would like to be a part of the show, remember you can always reach us on our social media handles. My name is Ian Dennis, and this has been The Business Coach, where we help entrepreneurs better their businesses.